Hello and welcome to HCB, where today it is the review of Week 22 in the Premier League. You know what, I usually say something here, but let's get right into it. And it is starting off with the Friday game, where it was Sheffield United 1, West Ham United 0. Goals from Oliver McBurney. A goal from Oliver McBurney, I should say, meaning Sheffield United, I guess, avenge the Carlos Tevez drama, I suppose. I mean, they've done it. They've been doing that pretty much all season. It means they go up into 6th place, and they're continuing on their decent season. They weren't necessarily on their best, but at the end of the day, they got the job done. Especially after the goal, they were the slightly better side in control. And no, I'm not saying only slightly better because I'm a West Ham fan, but. Yeah, they were a good side still at home. You can tell they've got the strategy down because we played the same formation, both 5 at the back or 3 at the back, however you want to look at it. And you can tell Sheffield United have been playing that formation a lot more than West Ham have, which is understandable considering we've just got a new manager in. As for West Ham, obviously the main talking point is the fact that we had a goal disallowed in the last minute due to handball by VAR. I should say originally stood, but then was overturned. Basically, what happened was if you haven't seen it, Declan Rice, he tackles one of the Sheffield United players. I apologise, I don't know who it is. And it goes onto his arm when he's in the running motion. He eventually passes it into Snodgrass, and Snodgrass just finishes it very well indeed. Now, the handball rule is absolute BS, and here's why. I think rules should be put in place for people to consciously break. And what I mean by that is they know that it's a bad challenge. Okay, that is definitely a foul play there. Handball, if you deliberately handball it, and you get penalised for it, that 100% agree. If you handball it and it goes straight into the goal, even if it's accidental, I can understand that. Okay, I understand it's accidental, but I will allow it. If you're handballing it, literally from a player heading it onto your motion running arm, it's not like it's in an unnatural position either, then how you can say that is handball and should mean that the player gets penalised for it, I do not get. The handball was stupid. And people are blaming VAR for this. People blame VAR. It's not VAR's fault. VAR did its job. VAR corrected the decision based on the rule book, not based on what I believe. And no one out of this, even except for the Premier League and whoever makes the stupid rules, no one has come out after this game saying, "Oh, well done, correct decision." It wasn't morally the correct decision to rule that out. You could say how you thought we played. I thought we did all right, despite what people say. We could create more chances, absolutely, but overall, I didn't think we played that bad. But at the end of the day, it's so stupid, the rule, and in my opinion, the draw would have been a fair result. Call me biased or not, that is my opinion anyway. But both teams move on, where West Ham are in action on Saturday against Everton at home. Meanwhile, Sheffield United at the same time play Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. We now move on to the Arsenal game this weekend, where it was Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1, and yes, that is what I predicted. Boom! Correct result, baby! In all seriousness, goals from Jordan Ayew and Aubameyang sealing the game as a score draw. Obviously, the main talking point here is Aubameyang's sending off at the 67th minute due to being overturned by VAR. Now, on one hand, you could say that it was a high boot and it was rightfully overturned as a red card. That is part of me saying that. On the other hand, you could also say that Aubameyang's in my fantasy team, so he's really mucked it up by getting sent off here. I don't care if he scored. He really cost me some points this week. I mean, in reality, I am going for the first one, but still, anyway. Obviously, Aubameyang now out for 3 weeks, which is honestly quite a big blow for Arsenal. They've been lacking in goals despite the return of Mikel Arteta, and they still need points. They're still only 10th in the league with only 6 wins all season. 6! There have been 22 games, and we have got Arsenal winning almost just over a third of their games. Just over a third. They have lost more games than they have won this season. That is embarrassing for Arsenal. And also, their opponents today, their opponents, on Saturday, were above them and are still above them. Crystal Palace, another London side. Crystal Palace are one of 3 London sides above Arsenal. Well, I mean, one of them is in West Ham, of course. Don't be ridiculous. But still, the fact that Arsenal, they've got to still be fighting for a European spot. I don't care if they are 10th, and I don't care if they've been there for the entire season. They still need to be fighting for it. The fact they are still 10th is absolutely ridiculous. And Arsenal fans, I mean, I would say I feel for you, but I don't really. If I was an Arsenal fan or didn't support a London club, I would feel for you. As for Crystal Palace, it's another good result. They've gone another season. This is now their 3rd game, where they have not lost to Arsenal. Now, maybe nowadays that isn't that impressive, but it is still something to be achieved. 4 games without losing to Arsenal. My apologies, they haven't lost them in the last 2 seasons. As for the games, Crystal Palace will travel to Man City next weekend. Meanwhile, Arsenal host Sheffield United on the Saturday at 3 o'clock. We now move on to Chelsea 3, Burnley 0. Goals from Tammy Abraham, Jorginho, and first Premier League goal for Callum Hudson-Odoi seal Burnley to a 4th straight defeat in a row. Chelsea remain in 4th. Meanwhile, Burnley down in 15th still. I mean, despite... basically, what's happened is Chelsea have lost 3 games in a row at home. So what they've done is, right, we're going to score 1 goal for every game we've lost back-to-back at home. That's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to work. So anyone thinking of playing Chelsea around April, let's hope they're not on a massive home losing streak at that time. Now, thankfully, we've already played them, so we don't have to worry about that. But anyone else thinking of playing Chelsea at home in April, just be wary of their record going in. But of course, this was back to the best of Chelsea. Really, the just fluid football. The youngsters really shining, especially obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi getting his first goal for the club. Tammy Abraham on the score sheet again. But you've got to say, Burnley played poor. This is a side that is going off 3 losses back to back. 2 teams. Not back. They might not be back to back. They're within like 3 or 4. So apologies if that joke that I just said doesn't work. But this is a side going off losses at home to Bournemouth, at home to Southampton, at home to West Ham, and at least 2 of those sides are awful at the moment. And no, West Ham are one of them. And you got to say they got to be seeing those results and thinking, we see those results there. Why can't we do the same? I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you why. Because you can't play like that at Stamford Bridge. Bournemouth, West Ham and Southampton all play better than that. And at the end of the day, they've been punished for it. Another 4th straight loss. You've got to say, they got to really start winning these games if they don't want to be dragged in the relegation battle. And their next game is a tough one. It is at home to Leicester on the Sunday. Meanwhile, Chelsea travel up to Newcastle. Apologies if I've got Newcastle fans, fair play. Watching my show, fair play. But now we move on to Goodison Park game. Man, that's a rubbish name for that game. As it is, it finished Everton 1, Brighton 0. Basically, if you're half my prediction, that it's correct. It's close enough. Close enough. Everton, another typical performance under Ancelotti, another 1-0 win. And another decent amount of shots. 14 shots they had in this game, 6 on target. You got to think, if we're having 14 shots, 6 on target, should we be more clinical? But yeah, the goal from Richarlison, 38th minute, sealed it, and Everton are still 11th. Meanwhile, Brighton remain in 14th. They maybe went into this game, especially after winning the reverse fixture, maybe with a bit of hope, thinking that they could end up getting something out of this game, maybe even a win. But at the end of the day, Everton are playing well at the moment, and Brighton, this won't hamper Brighton's season in any way, in the sense that they will be able to bounce back from this result. It's only 1-0. But where do both sides bounce to? Everton, Jeez, I've never used that phrase before. Everton travel to the London Stadium to play West Ham. Meet in the David Moyes derby. Spoiler alert for that derby name. What else is going to be? Honestly. Meanwhile, Brighton are at home to Aston Villa. We now move on to Leicester 1, Southampton 2, and I must apologise. If you are looking at your screen now, I have put the results in the wrong way around. The actual score was 2-1 to Southampton. My prediction was 3-1. I apologise, I've put them the wrong way around. Please forgive me. Just in your head, just swap them round. It's all fine. But goals from Danny Ings, another one from him, and Stuart Armstrong, cancelling out Dennis Pratt's first goal for Leicester, meaning Southampton, against all the odds, beat the side away from home that beat them earlier in the season 9-0. I remember that game very well. It was the first one I predicted. / reviewed. It was a weird one to predict and review. Maybe to review. Southampton at the moment, 13 points from 15 possible. You've got to give credit to the chairman here for sticking with Ralph Hasenhüttl, because after the reverse fixture in this game, he looked dead and buried. Honestly, he looked dead and buried. If he had gone that night, no one would have batted an eyelid. He probably had a pen in his hand walking into the office, saying, "All right, where do I sign? I didn't want to do a German accent just in case if I sound racist, but no, they've stuck with him. And despite some poor performances slightly after the game, they've turned it around, unbeaten in 5, 12th in the league. Now, am I saying they're relegation trouble? No. A couple bad performances, they're back in it. But that you've got to admit, they are a good side. Danny Ings, when the hell did he become such a good striker? Honestly, he is prolific. People are calling for him for a Euro 2020 call-up. At the end of the day, Kane's potentially going to be rusty, if not completely out of the tournament. I'm not saying start him, but he's one of the top goal scorers in the league. The squad should be picked on momentum, and Danny Ings is at the moment the biggest momentum out of possibly any striker in the Premier League. If he carries this momentum on, pick him 100%. And I don't think Gareth Southgate would be afraid. He's the kind of manager. He's shown he will pick players from lower league opposition. And also, when was the last time Southampton had a Premier League player in the England squad? Probably Ryan Bertrand was the last guy. But since that, maybe Ward-Prowse got in. Let me know. But yeah, you got to give credit to Southampton. As for Leicester, they are in a bad run of form at the moment. Despite back-to-back wins to Newcastle against Newcastle and West Ham, this is now their third loss in 5. This one probably hurt the most. Maybe the Liverpool one did, but this is now their second. This is now their second home loss in a row, which is slightly concerned. They've now dropped down to third. They're going to have a mountain to climb if they want to get back above City, which was was demonstrated this weekend with Man City. We'll get on to that, but they definitely need to. The bubble has definitely burst in a sense for Leicester, but they need. With maybe the heavy schedule clearing, they might help them go back into their form. As for the next games, but Leicester play Burnley next week. Meanwhile, Southampton are at home to Wolves. We now move on to Man United 4, Norwich 0. And geez, Norwich, how bad are you? You are letting Man United score 4 goals. 2 goals from Rashford, Martial, 1 goal from Martial, and 1 goal from Greenwood, sealing the deal. And remember, it seems to be very typical goal scorers of those 3. Remember when Daniel James was scoring them? Seems a bit odd that he's all of a sudden stopped. But yeah, I will say honourable special mention to Juan Mata, because that ball I can't remember what goal it was. I think it was Marcus Rashford's first, or that was beautifully placed. Honestly, I will say you gotta give credit to Juan Mata for that. Man United at the moment, you've got to say, despite Ole Gunnar Solskjaer not still being in the job, and how I still think, potentially he should be sacked, you've got to say Man United they're doing all right. They are 5th at the moment. Yes, should they be challenging for the top 4? Yeah, they should be. And they are still 5 points off the top 4. But at the end of the day, considering they were in mid-table around October, he has turned it round a little bit, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Now, should he be in charge? That's another question. It depends how high up you think Man United should be with the squad they've got. But considering the start they had, you've got to give credit to Man United. As for Norwich, considering the start they had, you've got to give them anything but credit, because they started so well, and now this is another loss. It's their 14th of the season. They are now in a minus 23 goal difference, 5 more than anyone else in the league. Actually, it's not. It's not 5 more. It's 5 more. It's 5 more. Um, and they're rock bottom to the league. I would be shocked if Norwich did not end up getting relegated this season. Now they look dead and buried. They're 5 points away from 6 points. Sorry, away from 19th, which doesn't seem like much. But if you can't get wins, how are you going to make up those points? I've been praising them in the last few weeks. I've been saying this is Norwich side. Their win will come soon. I'm not saying it would have come this week anyway, because I predicted Man United to win this, but not in the fashion where you're getting thrashed. This is not the Man United side that thrashes you. It's the Man United side that could potentially beat you, especially at Old Trafford, but not the side that thrashes you. Come on, Norwich. I'm not. They need to be much better, especially in defence. Like another 4 conceded is poor. Man United will host Wolves in the FA Cup on Wednesday in the third round replay before massive game travelling to Liverpool in the Premier League. Meanwhile, Norwich are at home to Bournemouth in the league on Saturday. Must-win game for them. To be fair, though, any game really for them is must-win. We now move on to Wolves 1, Newcastle 1, goals from Almiron and Dendonkus sealing a 1-1 draw. Now, admittedly, this was way off my prediction of 4-0. I will give you credit, Newcastle. You did a lot better than I expected. When it comes to Almiron, his goals are coming like buses. He doesn't score in like 18 months. All of a sudden, 3 come in the space of 6 games. Who knew that he actually could score goals? I will say it was quite a dull game, to be honest. Not all the action came in the first 15 minutes. Other than that, it was not many chances were created really by either side. Wolves obviously dominated the game from being at home, and the fact they were playing Newcastle, who, if they have more than 35% possession, they will consider it a dominant performance. But as you'd say that Wolves probably could see this as a missed opportunity. This is another game where it's ended up drawing 1-1. Both games have ended up drawing 1-1 this year. The game before last season between these two sides ended 1-1. In theory, based at the moment, these sides will both be in the league next season. In theory, if I continue on to this, I should be predicting 1-1. I do regret not doing that. I will say one issue for Newcastle is I believe they had another injury in that game. Which is a blow. Yes, they had 2 actually. Paul Dummett going down, and then Dwight Gale. Admittedly, Dwight Gale not necessarily an issue. If anything, it will help them. But yeah, this is their Newcastle list is getting very, very bad. I'm not sure when they said they wanted Andy Carroll to come back and have a massive effect. I don't think they wanted Andy Carroll to teach people their fitness regimes like that. They don't want to do that. But it seems to be what they're doing. They're dropping down like flies. Thankfully for them, Christian for St. Maxim should be potentially could be back for this week's game. So they need him back desperately because the goals are drying up and they're potentially slipping slowly back down the table. But of course they've got a cup game. Both teams have got cup game replays tonight. Newcastle hosts Rochdale in the cup before facing Chelsea on Saturday. Meanwhile, Wolves play Man United before playing Southampton. Both ties away. We now move on to Spurs versus Liverpool, where it ended 1-0 to Liverpool after a goal from Roberto Firmino in the first half sealed it. Now I got to give credit where credit's due. Spurs did play well and actually should have got something out of this game. I'm not saying they should have won it, but a draw would have potentially been a fair result. Because they only have 33% possession at home. That isn't good. They had one more shot than Liverpool. Now they had less shots on targets than Liverpool, but you can see they were creating more chances. Lo Celso, how he didn't score, I don't know. Aurier actually doing something of use, of goodness, and actually probably meaning it. This is a performance where Spurs need to look at the positives. People complaining about the VAR. It's a goal. Dele Alli handballs it. It is a goal. There's no. I know people like to complain about Liverpool, and believe me, after seeing the handball decision given against us, the Van Dijk one from a couple of weeks ago, that it's a bit of a pain, really, isn't it? But I'm not going to sit here and say, Liverpool ref cheated on refs again. Whatever the story is, it wasn't. It was a goal. It was a goal at the end of the day. And Liverpool now have the best ever start to a season by Europe's top by a club in Europe's top four leagues. I'd be shocked if they didn't win the league. They could easily do another be invincible season, and this one would be even more impressive than Arsenal. Because at the end of the day, Arsenal didn't lose games. They did draw a few though. Liverpool have only drawn one so far this season. We are in mid-January. That is incredible. Like, even Man City's records weren't this good. Like, it's incredible thing. They're on 61 points. 14 more than Man City, who are in second place. Who's going to catch them? Honestly, I know Liverpool, and they've messed up these leads before, but I just can't see it. I just cannot see it. Liverpool play Man United in a massive game on Sunday. The only team so far that has actually got any points from Liverpool. Not the only team that has actually not lost them. That's also us, mainly because we haven't played them, but I choose to ignore that fact. And meanwhile, Spurs play Middlesbrough in the Cup before travelling to Watford. We now move on to the Sunday games, and the first one was Bournemouth 0, Newcastle, Watford 3, and what a turnaround from Nigel Pearson. Goals from Pereira, Deeney, and Doucouré sealing it for Watford, and they are now out of the relegation zone. And who the hell saw that back in even last month? Who even saw Nigel Pearson's really turned the side around? And I'll be honest, I had my doubts when they signed him. But under Nigel Pearson, they've only lost one game, that being to Liverpool. Since then, they have drawn 1-4. Incredible. And also, you've got to look at the fact that since Nigel Pearson's come in, they've played 6 games, only conceding 4 goals. That is really good for a side that is struggling with relegation. But on the flip side of it, it was such a poor performance from Bournemouth. They're now 19th in the league, the lowest they've been in any of their seasons since coming to the Prem. At this point, only 1 shot on target all game. Only 3 fouls committed, which sounds bad, which sounds like a good stat, but it shows there's a lack of fire in this Bournemouth side. I mean, I saw it firsthand when watching them play West Ham. We beat them 4-0. It was a comfortable result. But you could see here, it's very poor, and they need to find some fight in them that they haven't had to find at any point. The players that have been there since the start of the Prem, they haven't had to find this fight yet. They need to find it soon. Because at the end of the day, would Eddie Howe go? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. Would Eddie Howe get sacked? Obviously not from this performance. It would be too late to do that. This was on Sunday. It's now Tuesday. They would have sacked him by now. But do they have the fight? Does Eddie Howe know how to keep this team up from this position? Because at the end of the day, most people are in agreement. Once Bournemouth go down, they're going to struggle to come back up. They need to stay in this league, even if Bournemouth fans still are just happy to be here. They need to be. Here. Now, okay, Watford were meant to play Tranmere tonight, but their game has been postponed, so that's not going to be the next game they play. They're playing Spurs in the early kickoff on Saturday. Meanwhile, Bournemouth must-win game away at Norwich, so must win. We now move on to the final game of this week. It was Aston Villa 1, Man City 6. 2 goals from Mahrez, a hat-trick from Aguero, and Gabriel Jesus sealing it for Man City. Oh, sorry, there was a consolation goal from El Hagazi in the 91st minute. I mean, Man City, it's just Man City being Man City. What else is there to explain? Mahrez, excellent. And again, Aguero breaking the record for most goals from an international player. He is the best striker of the decade. There is no question at all. He's one of the best ever in the Premier League, and he's an incredible player. One of the best, probably when it comes to Premier League, probably underrated, considering he hasn't won the Golden Boot, especially in recent years. It's slightly underrated how good Aguero actually is. But this does mean Man City actually move up into second place, which I can't see them going back below Leicester this season. Maybe for 1 week, but they will finish up in second. And they are just another incredible performance. As for Aston Villa, now look. No one expected you to beat Man City. No one did. I put 3-0. But 6-1 at home. This is going back to the days of your last season in the Premier League, the 15-16. You lost 6. That was another time you conceded 6 at home. against Liverpool that you did that this time. You are not as bad as that side. Yeah, that's why you got one goal. No, that is not the reason. Now, look, at the end of the day, you could say that it didn't help that their main keeper was out and their main striker was out. Yeah, the striker has no impact on your back line, mate. I don't care if I don't care if you're not actually playing a out and out number 10. There's no impact. Thankfully for them, they have signed Pepe Reina. Now, whether you think he's a good signing or not, whether you think he can keep up in the Premier League, I've got my doubts. He's surely better than Nyland. Okay, Nyland played like 2 games and he's expecting to do stuff against Man City. That's like putting out a block of bar about the size of 5'5", otherwise known as Claudio Bravo. And then playing Man City. It's not gonna work, is it? It's just not. Villa need to regroup. They're now in the relegation zone again. They need to bounce back. They play Brighton on Saturday. Meanwhile, Man City have got to exercise their demons from last season in the Etihad when they play Crystal Palace. I'll be talking on more on that game on Thursday. Well, that wraps up this week's games. Now let's look at how my fantasy team did. As I said, Aubameyang really bugged it up. And also, Dendoncker was on my bench, so that didn't help. But good performances from Robertson, Egan, De Bruyne, Vardy even put in a shift despite losing. And Abraham got me respectable 52 points. Still remains up top of the table by a comfortable margin. So that will conclude this week's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like, share and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell. And I will see you this Thursday for the predictions for week 23.